Hi everyone, my name is Herkov and welcome back to my incredibly stupid hardcore world where I'm only allowed to use wooden tools and leather armor. As some of you may have noticed, I haven't updated to the latest update. The reason behind this choice is that I wanted to wait to be able to run the replay mod for time lapses as well as sodium for the FPS boost. However, I recently made the rather embarrassing observation that the replay mod has been available ever since the 10th of July, and that the reason why I didn't notice this earlier is because I was using Forge to launch Minecraft, and as of the time this script is being written, the replay mod is still not available via Forge for some inexplicable reason, which is rather infuriating. So due to this rather stupid and admittedly very avoidable mishap, I've now switched over to Modrinth, which, unlike Forge, actually has the replay mod for the latest update. So in celebration of me successfully using Google, which basically makes me a professional hacker man, I thought it would make sense to dive right into what the latest update has to offer. And I'll be completely honest with all of you, I knew close to nothing about the details of this update. I was aware that a new completely busted weapon had been added, along with some dog stuff, as well as a completely new structure called the Trial Chamber, which you have to murder the inhabitants of to proceed to steal all of their stuff. This means that Minecraft has, once again, created a completely new and seemingly rather profitable way to commit murder and burglary, which I of course find very exciting. Therefore, I decided to take on this new structure. However, I had absolutely no idea what strategy I should have used, or if there's a way to cheese the new trial chambers. And while I could look it up, which would probably mean that I wouldn't be as exposed to the risk of dying in a very avoidable and underwhelming way, I decided against it. The reasoning behind this choice is something that I am unfortunately too demented to remember, but I'm sure there was a very logical and bulletproof reason as to why I made that decision, as I am a very capable, smart, and handsome young man. However, since I created this world before the new update, all of the chunks we've loaded so far are generated based on the last update, meaning they couldn't generate the new structure. So in order to actually find a trial chamber, I have to go quite far from our base, and I decided to achieve that by using the Nether, as 1 block traveled in the Nether is equivalent to 8 blocks traveled in the overworld. I know, I'm very smart. However, there was an issue with this absolutely genius and intricate master plan, that being that we had essentially ran out of obsidian, which was rather inconvenient. And since I was significantly too impatient to go AFK at our bartering farm, I decided to go burgling the homes of aggressive deformed heads in moving boxes to grab all the ender chests I could get my slimy and greedy hands on. So I proceeded with my rather violent burglaries for quite some time. And once we had been handsomely rewarded for our crimes, I finished the rest of the preparations, which included grabbing a bunch of golden apples as well as some regeneration potions. I then set off for the adventure of finding a trial chamber, and by adventure, I mean flying a few hundred blocks in the Nether and building a portal, but rather inconveniently, I spawned in a cave, so I had to dig my way out and find a village, which I did almost immediately. The reason we needed a village was because journeyman cartographers have a chance of selling a map leading to a trial chamber, so I got on to leveling up the village cartographer, and quite luckily, the first cartographer we leveled up decided to sell the map we were after, which was a very wise choice on his part. So I bought the map and gathered all of my stuff to set off to the trial chamber, though I rather quickly realized that the trial chamber was directly below our portal, which was rather convenient. And after successfully locating it, I decided to deploy a strategy that's rather different from what I usually do. So instead of running in with no plan and hoping for the best, I decided to make a hole in the wall and peek with my bow in hopes of keeping my cheeks unclapped. I actually googled if unclapped is a real word, and was rather surprised as the Oxford Dictionary essentially told me that nobody cares, but in a more professional and fancy way. But anyways, I deployed the previously mentioned strategy in a very brave and heroic fashion and realized that skeletons deal a lot of damage, though since I am a very talented and professional Minecraft player, I managed to come out on top. I then noticed that I had gotten quite a few drops, including a key, and after a quick Google search, I found out that I could shove said key into the block that seemed really surprised by my very presence. I was then rewarded with some emeralds, which was rather underwhelming, then continued my rather violent home invasion, where I opened yet another vault. And to you who may have missed it, the weird spawner-like blocks with a face on them are called vaults, and after getting disappointed by the loot we got once again, I continued raiding. The trial chamber has quite a few items that are not available anywhere else. those being the 2 new armor trims, the banner patterns, the 3 new music discs, as well as 3 new pottery sherds. You can also get a heavy core, which is needed to craft the new weapon. However, that doesn't really matter to us, as we're only allowed to use wooden tools and leather armor, rendering the heavy core completely useless. But anyways, in order to get all of the exclusive items, I had to do what I despise the most. I had to make some effort. Apparently, there are 2 different kinds of vaults, where there's the ones that we had already looted, as well as something called ominous vaults, which is essentially a caked up version of the aforementioned rather underwhelming normal vault. In order to open the ominous vault, we needed a special key that can be dropped if we manage to clear an ominous trial, and a trial being to clear all the mobs of a spawner. And to take on an ominous trial, we needed to acquire Bad Omen, which has been changed into a potion that you have to drink to get the effect. This makes the trial more difficult based on the level of Bad Omen you have. And needless to say, this absolute wall of information left me confused, frustrated, doubtful, and very slightly aroused. However, both of these vaults have exclusive items, as they had completely separate loot tables, meaning I had to go for both of them to get all of the items I wanted. And once I had opened all of the vaults available in the trial chamber, I decided to simply wait for them to reset by continuing the collection of keys, as the trials seem to have a shorter cooldown than the vaults. Though, as we have established quite a few times on my channel, I'm not a very patient man. So I turned to Google yet again like the professional hacker man that I am, and came to the horrifying realization that vaults don't reset, meaning we could only open each vault once. So once we're done opening all the vaults, the trial chamber becomes pretty much useless, which was very disappointing. And with the aforementioned disappointing news, I made my way back to our base. But even though we couldn't loot the same chamber again, we still managed to get a pretty decent number of items that we wanted, as we got all of the new pottery sherds, 1 of the armor trims, 2 out of the 3 new music discs, as well as honeycomb, which I have no other way of getting as I can't use shears. I also got a heavy core, but as I said earlier, it's about as useful to us as I am to society. I then decided to listen to the new music discs and was very pleasantly surprised. However, there were still a few items that we were missing, that being the 2nd armor trim, banner pattern, as well as the final music disc. So I replenished my stock of resources, which would hopefully help me not get absolutely clapped by the owners of the next homes I will be invading. I then repeated the steps that we used to find our first chamber and got to looting once more. However, this trial chamber didn't give us anything of value, as the only somewhat notable thing we got was another heavy core, though I then remembered that I had made a bunch of TNT a while back, meaning I wouldn't have to settle with only looting, but could steal their whole abode as well. I then located yet another chamber in hopes of getting the last items I was after, and rather luckily, I did manage to get my slimy and greedy hands on the last armor trim, which was very epic. This meant that the only items left that we wanted from the trial chamber was the last music disc, as well as the banner pattern, though unfortunately, that was the only item that we got from this trial chamber, which was rather inconvenient, as this would mean that I would have to do the exact same thing a 4th time. So I repeated the exact same steps for a 4th time, but this time, I finally managed to get my hands on both the music disc as well as the 2nd banner pattern, meaning that I would never have to deal with the trial chambers again. So I returned back home and got to the favourite task of all Minecraft players, that being to manually sort 10 shulkers worth of items into their correct chests. And when all of the items had been sorted in a very action-packed and exciting manner, I realized that we actually have every single armor trim in the game, apart from the Coast and Tide, and since both of them are quite straightforward to get, I decided to go for it, as it would almost be rude not to. So I flew off and looted a shipwreck and broke into the home of a bunch of aggressive deformed fish, which luckily gave me the last armor trims I needed. But that is about all that we have time for in this episode. So there we have it, the 14th episode of our incredibly stupid hardcore world. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like and subscribe if you did, and I'll see you in the next one.